Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Connor Williams, joined by Stephen Hornby, and we are going to be reliving the Everton-Fulham game, which ended 3-1 to Fulham. First things first, mate, talk me through your thoughts.
I'm really starting to get worried now. I haven't looked at the table this much before. Even last season, I haven't looked at the table this much before. It's just after the recent games, I'm looking at it going, who's going to get us out of it? Who's going to get the goals? Which games are we going to win? Where are we going to find any points from? That's where I'm looking at it, because I'm looking at it and I'm going, maybe Palace. But then again, if Everton win up, I wouldn't, I'm not a betting man, but I wouldn't put any money on us winning an away game between now and the end of the season. Palace and Leicester, they're the two winnable games, and they're both away from home. There was the Sims goal against Chelsea and the Tottenham goal for Keane, and both of them, they sort of left the fan base feeling a bit more upbeat coming off them. I think this is at the exact opposite. This has just been after United and after Saturday. It's just left everyone going, oh my God, we've got to wait for the next game. It's this constant, and it's horrible when you're an Everton fan and you're on social media and stuff like that, and you do stuff like this, because there's this horrible 5-6 day period of constant negativity. There's no sort of looking up from it. It's very easy to get caught in all that pessimism, but I'm trying to stay as positive as I can, but I can understand that it certainly feels different to last season in terms of the games we've got left and the players we've got.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I said this to I said this to my dad today when I was talking to him about it. I was like, and I've done it since last season as well for the same reason. I don't go on Twitter once we've lost. I give it like 3-4 days breath before I go back on Twitter, just because
I took a break from it. I took quite an extended break of about a month. I took off it, and I started up again with a new account because it was just getting so toxic. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's like obviously fans like you already feel crap when we lose, but then you go on Twitter and it's like, because it's an echo chamber. It is just
It's even worse. Connor, we could do an entire video on the terrible shouts that have been going around on Twitter this week. I seen someone yesterday tweeting how bad Nathan Patterson is, and it blew my mind. It was just like, how can you? A lad who at the start of the season, let's not forget, was our first choice right back. He played out of his socks against Liverpool. He played great against Crystal Palace. He got injured. He's come back in his first game back. He's played 10 minutes in a side that was 3-1 down at home when there was 20,000 fans in the ground. And people are already writing him off. So there's some terrible shouts going around on Twitter, like,
Facebook's just as worse. I saw one. It was Calvert-Lewin was in the stands. He's got his hands like this or something, and like somebody's like, "Oh, look at his finger, look at his misses. He doesn't want to stay." And it's like, how can you get that? Like, what was he meant to do? Smile? We're 3-1 down. Like, he's not going to look static. Why are you reading that much? Honestly, it blows my mind.
It's like you really, we could just talk about it all day, mate. The state of some of the opinions on there. It's like, there's always something to be said about Calvert-Lewin. There's always someone saying something about Michael Keane, whether it's negative or positive. There's always an opinion on Mikalenko. Just players, and it just felt like, it feels like with Everton, at the moment, every player is a scapegoat. You come in, and unless you're banging 20 goals a season in, some of our supporters can't see a positive in anything, in any sort of player. You look at, for example, you take someone like Alex Iwobi, right? The stick he's been getting on Twitter recently, I've heard, should never play for the club again. That was one of the ones I heard. Alex Iwobi, if I'm correct, is our highest goal scorer who's at the club. I think Anthony Gordon might be our top goal scorer all season, but Alex Iwobi, he's had a fantastic season when you compare it to recent ones. He's playing in an awful team. Not to mention, he's also, since Dyche come in, he's been playing out of position.
I think it's a problem that we've had for a while. I remember when Lukaku used to play for us, and he was like, banging free against Bournemouth, but then get called lazy and stuff like that. And now you see fans like would fall over backwards for the Lukaku of now. Who, I mean, he's still a great player, but when he was with us, he was absolutely brilliant. And it's mental looking back that people wanted him out. But back to Fulham, first goal for them, scored by Harrison Reed. Talk me through the goal.
Well, the first one I actually thought was quite a good move from them. Some bad defending. I'm literally just clutching them out in memory now because I haven't watched it back. Of course, I'm not gonna. It's not something I want to relive, but it sort of rolls out to Reed on the edge of the box, doesn't it? And he rolls it along the floor into I think it was the corner of the net. And I was looking back on it, and it was a fantastic goal he scored. I thought it was great. They played really well. I thought on the entire day. I thought I seen it. I'm talking then about Twitter and how negative it is, but I did see a good one. It said, it's bad when you get out desired by a team that have got nothing to play for, and that really that was like, wow, yeah, that hit it on the head really because coming in. Another one as well. We were talking there about taking people for granted. Marco Silva at his time, he got hounded out by Evertonians. I don't know if you remember the spray paint on County Road. Silva out and he spelled his name wrong. So again, you look at that Fulham team, but no, Fulham's first goal. I'm impressed with what they've done because players like Harrison Reed, they've sort of bobbed around the league for a bit. You haven't seen too much of them, but in that Fulham team, it seems like a team full of players who are playing for the manager rather than one or two superstars. So, but no, that Harrison Reed, I don't think he gets many, but I was impressed with that one he scored. He scored on Saturday, even if it was against us. But yeah, I think that did put us on the back, put us up against the ropes. I think that first goal, and obviously we needed the one from Dwight McNeil to really to have any sort of impetus in the game after that.
Yeah, and Dwight McNeil's a player that I don't see get as much praise as he should, but I think since Dyche has come in, he's probably one of our better players now, which is chalk and cheese to him under Frank Lampard because there were times under Frank Lampard where it looked like he might be a one season and the club looked to move him on type of player.
Yeah,
Just goes to show a system, and he's playing out on the left where he prefers instead of being out on the right trying to play inverted wingers. But Dwight McNeil's goal, I was quite impressed with it. Nice bit of skill from him. Took the pass well from Garner. What were your thoughts on his goal?
um, I agree with you. I absolutely love Dwight McNeil. I think at the moment he's playing better than anyone else in that starting 11. I think he's the first name on the team sheet at the minute as well. What I like about him is he does the easy thing as well. You would have looked at when he got that ball. Maybe you would have seen another winger maybe try and go outside the fullback, or maybe try and come inside outside of the foot or something like that. Try and do it a bit more fancy or wait for an overlap from the fullback. But again, this is what he brings to our side, and I think he's going to be important for us for the rest of the season because we saw it in his goal against Brentford, and then his goal against Fulham at the weekend was very similar, coming in on that left hand side, and he just places it just across the keeper, and we know how good his left foot is. And yeah, I think if we're gonna stay in the league, if we're gonna get some wins between now and the end of the season, I think Dwight McNeil is going to be one of the most important ones because to me he seems like the player you probably want in a formation like this under Sean Dyche. But I think he's also playing with as much confidence as you can in this Everton team, considering there's not much to feel confident about. He does a lot of things well. He's good at, he takes good free kicks and corners. I like the way his game management in the way that I think that's what I've seen a lot under Dyche, more of it. He'll be running down the wing. There's nothing on in the box. He'll play it off the defender. He'll win a corner. Stuff like that. He's good at getting back and defending. So yeah, I think I was impressed with his goal. I'm good to see. It's good to see. The only positive really from Saturday was him to get another one on the sheet, and um, personally for him a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's really done well to turn it around, and the more goals and the more confidence he gets, the better for us moving forward. And their second goal, I mean, if you were going to say who on Fulham's team sheet was going to end up hurting us, it'd probably be Harry Wilson, just because of where the club he's come from, being Liverpool. It was just one of those where you just think it really it's a bit like it's got proper vibes. Anyone who used to play for Liverpool almost guaranteed to. A bit of an annoying goal to give away though. Rives lays side foots into the net. Willian doing the assist as well. A bit annoying to watch Willian have a really good game against us, bearing in mind he's about 30, he's gotta be like 35 now,
Yeah,
34, something like that.
next year only. He's
Yeah, It's absolutely mental. Bearing in mind when Fulham signed him as well, people were looking at it like, don't know if that's the right move. Um, but yeah, it was a frustrating goal to give away, though, wasn't it? For the to lose the well, not lose the game, but to give away, which added up.
Yeah, it knocked the wind out of us, didn't it? That one. It rolled across the front of the penalty box and he hit it, and it was like you said there. It's like that boot, like a clip in it. You just knew that were going to happen. Um, it just yeah, it was going to be him or also Tom Keane. He always seems to yeah. He can be going through a terrible patch of form and he'll always score against us. But no, I like Harry Wilson. I think he's a good player. I think he's done well for them when they were in the championship, and then he's a good. I don't know how young he is actually anymore. He's been there for. He's been feels like he's been around for forever, doesn't it? So,
Mm.
um, no, I think again, goals like that they just come from bad defending, not picking up runners, um, not being able to work hard enough for the ball when they have it. When you one up, when it's 1-1, you've got back into it at the end of this, 35 minutes. 10 minutes, we played really well for that last 10 minutes of the first half. We looked like if anyone was going to go on and win it, it was going to be us. Um, we come out for the second half, and it just looked like I don't know, looked like someone had passed some sleeping pills around in the dressing room at half time. It was awful. There was and what confused me about it was as well. I've never seen it before. They were about 5 minutes late out the dressing room. They, they, our team came out and they left us waiting for ages. It felt a bit like when you watch a big boxing match and the champion will leave the challenger in the ring for 5 minutes before they make their entrance. Just mind games and stuff like that. And that was when it felt like, okay, we're gonna have to take these seriously now because they came out and they were moving the ball around a bit. And I thought, okay, this is where most teams you've got to be careful now. Everton, you're sitting at home, you want all up. You need 3 points here. They were passing the ball around. They were making us move, tiring us out, keeping possession of the football. They started having a few chances, and I thought, okay, ride the storm. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at it. Let's keep it at 1-1. The ball gets rolled into the middle. I don't know if it was Michael Keane or didn't move quick enough to it. It's just a great finish from Harry Wilson. So I think once that goal went in, you could feel immediately the atmosphere just dropped in the ground. It was horrible. Yeah, and then obviously it gets even worse with the third one.
Yeah, I was going to say the third one just long free kick ricochets off. I think it was Michael Keane, wasn't it? Straight to Dan James. It
Yeah,
sums up Everton, doesn't it? At the lowest, like
yeah,
at the lowest. It's almost balanced. We were on about the last two games. The Ellis Simms' goal against Chelsea, an incredible goal. But I don't know how many times he's going to do that to week in week out. And then Michael Keane's was an absolute. He's not going to do that again.
mm,
Certainly not this season. It was one of those goals where you look at it and you think that's incredible, but it's a bit of luck as well. And then this was just a bit like, right, well, there's your luck gone. Those two goals, very good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're fluky, but it does feel like
yeah.
it was in our favour. And then this goal just put it back down to earth of, nah, your luck's been run out here because it was tough and deflating.
I don't know if I'd describe it as luck. I just think we rode our momentum and that was it. I think we had that momentum. We had for and you look at it, we scored both of our goals. Chelsea and Tottenham both came out at time. Both two very good goals, but two that you wouldn't expect to get. It was a time when we had that momentum, we were able to get it. I think Fulham just had us sussed out. I think, and I mentioned here that there was just I think playing Chelsea and then playing Tottenham in two big games like that. Then to come had to bring Fulham to our place, a team with nothing to play for, and sit back and let them have the ball for the whole second half. That I think it just was very lackadaisical, very lazy, very not what you want when you're in a relegation battle. You've seen teams, picking up points here and there, um, and it's just you want to be able to pick up points in games like that. You seen it yesterday with West Ham. Just because you're 2-0 down, just because two goals behind doesn't mean you're going to lose the game. Um, I think it was Bournemouth, wasn't it, on Saturday against Chelsea, when they went and won there. So I think to get those 2 points against Chelsea and Tottenham were massive. I just think it doesn't matter if you're going to get those draws there if you can't win your own games against, with all due respect to Fulham, they're in mid-table. They're not going to go any higher. They're not going to go any lower. So, um, with 10 minutes left of the first half, I thought this is here for the taking when Dwight McNeil scored. But it just shows in the Premier League you can't bank on anything really.
No, I completely agree. You can't bank on people around you. Teams around doing you favors either against the teams around you. Give me your. I'm going to give you. I will end on a positive, so I'll ask for your player who needs the most improvement first
The player who needs the most improvement.
from this game. I had a poor game. I just don't want to say crap because it's a bit negative.
Yeah, I think Idrissa Gueye fell off a little bit. I feel like he's lost a yard of pace in the last few games. Um, I'd like to see a bit more from Idrissa Gueye being one of the senior players in that team. I think he could be doing a lot better. He could be setting a bit more tempo. Vitaly Mikalenko, I'm a huge fan of him, but on Saturday he was absolutely shocking. That's not going to go without saying. Um, Neil Maupay is the obvious one, isn't it? I think Calvert-Lewin needs to come in now. But if I'm going to say for anyone who I think is good enough to be in that team but isn't playing as well as he can, I think it's Garner Gay. I think he's given the ball away too much recently. I think he's not moved as quick as he can. We've seen before, times when he's like an engine in that midfield, and recently, yeah, he's just not been his usual self, and I think it comes down to a thing of confidence within the team. I know Alex Iwobi said as well on that podcast he was on about how sometimes when you're in a team like that, 11 players, it's very, very hard to keep that momentum going through all 11. The same ideas, the same amount of confidence between them. There's always going to be one or two who fall down, and maybe other players see that and begin to mirror it. I think that's been the case with Garner Gay recently. I think maybe a change up in that midfield, and also maybe a bit more trust for Garner Gay. I think he's at that point now where maybe he could play in a different position, maybe a bit further forward, try him out somewhere else, because of course he's never been a typical goal scorer or creator, but we know what he can do. We know some really good runs of form. We know he's a good player, but I think there needs to be a bit of improvement from him. Maybe a fresh role for Garner Gate for me. I think that's what needs changing. I think too many of those players have gone stale in the positions they are. We've seen it with Decore, didn't we? Come back in and he was really good. So sometimes bringing someone in and giving them a new lease of life can help. I think Idrissa Gueye is the one I want to see that happen to now.
Yeah, I think he's one of the players that sort of needs to step up. I think he plays a little bit forward I think he's Senegal's best midfielder, but they play him a little bit more advanced. During the World Cup, I'm pretty sure I watched him take corners for them and free kicks,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't recommend us doing because I watched him take them, but just shows they trust him more as a creative player as well as defensive. We'll end on give me your man of the match. It's always tough after a loss, but give me your man of the match.
Dwight McNeil. Obviously, he got our goal. He seemed a bit more on it than all the others. I thought James Garner played good as well. I said before Man United, I wanted him to come back into the team, and I think that was obvious. At the end of the second half, where we swapped the wingers over and we moved Iwobi into the middle with Garner. Yeah, we started out with Iwobi on the right, McNeil on the left, and Gray through the middle in the number 10. As soon as they got that first one, moving it with Iwobi. Played Iwobi a bit deeper, moved Garner further forward, and broke Gray out wide. I think Garner really shone there a bit further forward. He played that Decore role really well. Good at carrying the ball. He has a good touch, and he seemed on it for a lot of the game. But obviously, once that third goal goes in, I think you're not going to blame any player for sort of for the wind being knocked out of them, and it's hard then to come back. But I think for that first half, it'll be Dwight McNeil and James Garner. I think they're the two positives we can take from it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think both those players played really well, but I'd probably give it to Dwight McNeil once again. Really good improvement, and good to see him improve, get confidence, and prove people wrong. Because in the start, it wasn't good. A lot of people writing him off 2 months in. Yeah, so really good to see. That is all we've got time for, though. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below your thoughts on the Everton Fulham game. And let us know your thoughts on the rest of the season as it starts to wind down very quickly. Look forward to reading them, and I'll see you guys very soon.